Welcome to this Killik Explains video. Now, as I make this towards the tail end of 2021, you may be watching it early in 2022, I just want to remind you of a very useful source of information, in particular if you're thinking about what to do before the end of the tax year, which hits us on the 5th of April every year. Now, to help you, what I wanted to do was reference some of these things, my Killik Explains guides. So I want to take you on a very quick tour of how many guides there are, what they aim to do, and why they'd be quite a useful thing to read between now and the end of the tax year. There's 6 of them. They're not actually very difficult to read. I've written them to be jargon-free, to be fairly friendly. Anyone from a novice to somebody with a bit more experience should be able to read them. And what they try and do is put some context around some of the decisions that we make as we travel through our financial lives, and in particular as we work out what to do towards the end of each tax year. So what are these guides? Well, who are they for, first of all? They come in a set of sort of bright brand colours, if you like. This is one of the brightest ones here next to me, and the grey one I'll come back to in just a moment. But essentially, these are meant to be enough information to allow you to have a credible conversation about what you're trying to achieve financially and so on, but not too daunting, not all the technical depth you'd expect once you finally have a conversation with an expert, if you like. So they're for anyone new, anyone who's not new but very busy, anyone who wants to just save a bit of time. So perhaps you're thinking, I might want to have a meeting with an advisor, for example, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what I'm going to be talking about before I get to it. Or it's simply that you don't know what you don't know. So maybe you're thinking, I need a junior ISA, but maybe there are some other things you need, or maybe there's some other things you could think about around the edges. So one of the guides might just set the context for you. Now, the structure, there are 6, and there's a logic to the 6, if you like. 2 of the guides, and you'll see them flash up next to me, the covers at least. 2 of the guides are what I'd call bread and butter. They're the platform guides. 1, how to invest in equities. The second, how to invest or save and invest tax efficiently. And these are your bread and butter, if you like, because equities are such an important part of most people's long-term lifetime wealth saving strategies, if you like, and doing it tax efficiently and tax effectively is crucial. Why give away more money than you have to HMRC? So you've got the How to Invest in Equities guide, which is all about the basics of what are equities, why do people buy them, how do you do basic analysis on them, how do you buy them, do you do it through an app, do you do it through a human advisor, for example? All that stuff's in that one. And then the tax effective savings guide, as you imagine, takes you through all the basics of income tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, but also some of the ways of shielding your investments from those things. So we've got sections on ISAs, junior ISAs, trusts, as you'd expect. So those are well worth reading as what they call the sort of platform. Now, the other 4 guides are based around pivot points, if you like, within someone's financial life. What do I mean by that? Well, if you imagine as you go through your life, you suddenly have to make key decisions. So maybe you start a family and you're thinking, here's the pink one next to me. Literally, how do I save, plan and invest for that family? What do I do when it comes to funding really young children? What do I do when they get to school age? What about university? And what about further out? What about providing for their long-term security, perhaps through the form of helping them on the property ladder, perhaps through helping them with saving for retirement? All that stuff is in that particular guide. And then you hit the next pivot point, if you like, which is as people may be starting a family or maybe not, most people, once they get into their career, sort of 30s, 40s, start to think, crikey, I do need to save for retirement. So there's how to fund life after work, which is all about the different types of way you can plan for retirement. Do you use a pension? What type of pension? What are the other options? How can you crank up your savings, save more regularly, save more tax efficiently? All that good stuff is in there. How much support can you expect from the state versus how much work you have to do yourself? So there's that one. And then there's a grey one next to it. So on the other side, once you've built your peak savings, if you like, you've got to that fund that's going to see you through life after work. How do you generate the income you'll need when you no longer are at work or no longer self-employed? So big topics and it's the grey guide here, and it will flash up next to my head just here on the side of me. Big topics in there include: what are the various ways of generating income? Do you rely on property, for example? Do you rely on drawdown from some kind of managed or self-managed fund? Would you rely on an annuity, whatever that is? What are the various options? Would you even stop work altogether? Would you consider going part-time? Would you go self-employed? All of that's in there, which is why it's one of the chunkier guides. It's the grey one, the fatter looking one of the two next to me. And also, what forms of help are available to you at that phase of your life. So, in other words, sort of asking the question, how much am I going to have to fund for myself? What am I going to need to fund? In other words, what are your expectations, if you like, of life after work? And what are the various sources of help available? Now, that brings me to the final guide, which is all about how to plan for later life. Now, that phase is critical. Vital that families get together and discuss this stuff early. So, for example, how much do you plan to leave for future generations? How much do you plan to give away to charity if that's what you want to do? How much are you going to leave behind so the government can take a slice? There's no right answer to these questions. How do you set yourself up with a tax-effective structure that will achieve all those things? But what else? Have you got wills sorted? Have you got powers of attorney sorted? Those documents that basically will tell somebody where assets are to go once someone dies, and also what to do if they start to lose control over financial decisions and their own health and welfare. That's important. And then there's a section at the back, bit gloomy I know, on what to do when someone dies, because it's a lot of work to leave on someone's shoulders. So a section there on a sort of checklist, if you like, of things to think about. So there you have it, a set of 6 guides. I would urge you to request the ones that seem most relevant to you. There'll be a full list at the end of this video. They're not difficult to read, and they do concisely, hopefully, put some context around what can otherwise seem rather isolated decisions, like, do I get an ISA this year, for example? Now, lots of technical jargon I've covered here, hopefully not too much, and if you're still thinking I'd like to see this another way, then do access our comprehensive library, killik.com/learn, and for copies of any of the 6 guides, or indeed the whole caboodle if you like, please do drop us an email, editor@killik.com, and we'll be happy to organise those for you.